It is one of the most vital and strategic waterways in the world, a narrow channel that connects the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea and links Europe, Asia, and Africa. A lifeline for global trade and commerce that carries about 12% of the world's shipping traffic. It is the Suez Canal, and it has a history of blockages and crises. The most recent one occurred in March 2021, when a giant container ship, the Ever Given, ran aground and got wedged across the canal, halting all traffic for 6 days. But this was not the longest or the worst jam on the canal. The longest traffic jam on the Suez Canal lasted for 8 long years, from 1967 to 1975. And it was caused by a war, not by a ship. The Suez Canal was built in the 19th century by a French engineer, Ferdinand de Lesseps, with the support of the Egyptian ruler Said Pasha. It took 10 years to complete, from 1859 to 1869, and involved the labor of more than 100,000 workers, many of whom died from disease, accidents, and exploitation. The canal was inaugurated on November 17, 1869, with a grand ceremony attended by many dignitaries and celebrities, including the French Empress Eugénie, the British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli, and the Italian composer Giuseppe Verdi. The canal was an engineering marvel and a political and economic achievement. It was 164 kilometers long, 24 meters deep, and 205 meters wide at its narrowest point. It reduced the distance between Europe and Asia by about 7,000 kilometers and saved time, money, and fuel for the ships that used it. It also boosted the trade and development of the regions along its route and increased the influence and prestige of Egypt and France, who jointly owned and operated it. However, the canal also faced many problems and controversies from its inception to its operation. It was opposed and attacked by the Ottoman Empire, which claimed sovereignty over Egypt and the canal. It was also resented and envied by the British Empire, which saw it as a threat to its naval and colonial dominance. It was also exploited and manipulated by the foreign powers, who imposed debts and concessions on Egypt and intervened in its affairs. It was also disrupted and damaged by the wars and conflicts that erupted in the Middle East and affected its security and stability. The Suez Canal was closed and blocked for 8 years, from June 1967 to June 1975, as a result of the Six-Day War and the Yom Kippur War, 2 major wars that pitted Israel against its Arab neighbors, Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. The wars were fought over the control and the fate of the territories that Israel had captured in the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, such as the Gaza Strip, the Sinai Peninsula, the West Bank, and the Golan Heights. The wars were also fueled by the nationalism and the ideology of the Arab and the Israeli leaders, such as Gamal Abdel Nasser, Anwar Sadat, and Golda Meir. The closure and the blockade of the canal had a huge impact on the world and on the people and the ships that were trapped in it. It affected the economy and the politics of the region and the globe, as it disrupted the flow of oil and goods and increased the tension and the hostility between the parties involved. It also affected the lives and the fates of the sailors and the vessels that were stranded in the canal, as they faced isolation and uncertainty, and waited for a resolution and a release. The closure and the blockade of the canal began on June 5, 1967, the first day of the Six-Day War, when Israel launched a preemptive attack on Egypt, destroying most of its air force and advancing into the Sinai Peninsula. Egypt responded by closing the canal and sinking 40 ships in it to prevent Israel from using it or crossing it. The ships were mostly Egyptian, but also included some from Britain, France, the US, and other countries. The closure of the canal cut off the main route for the oil shipments from the Persian Gulf to Europe and America, and caused a shortage and a crisis in the energy market. The closure of the canal also trapped 15 ships in the Great Bitter Lake, a large saltwater lake that forms part of the canal. The ships were from 8 different countries and carried various cargoes, such as wool, steel, coal, and timber. They were known as the Yellow Fleet because of the desert sand that covered them. The ships and their crews were stuck in the lake for 8 years, unable to leave or to unload. They formed a community and a society and developed their own rules and routines. They also faced many challenges and hardships such as boredom, loneliness, heat, dust, and disease. The reopening and the unblocking of the canal was a long and difficult process that involved many negotiations and operations and many actors and factors. It was influenced by the political and diplomatic developments in the region and the world, such as the ceasefire and the peace talks between Israel and Egypt, the mediation and the pressure from the US and the UN, and the recognition and the normalization of the relations between the two countries. It was also influenced by the technical and logistical challenges in the canal, such as the removal and the salvage of the sunken ships, the clearance and the disposal of the mines and the explosives, and the repair and the maintenance of the canal's infrastructure and equipment. The reopening and the unblocking of the canal was finally achieved in 1975, after 8 years of closure and blockade. It was a joint effort and a joint success of Egypt and Israel, and of the international community and the organizations that supported and assisted them. It was also a relief and a joy for the ships and the sailors that were trapped in the canal, and for the world that depended on it. It was a symbol and a sign of the end of the war and the beginning of the peace and of the restoration and the revival of the canal. The closure and the blockade of the Suez Canal was one of the most dramatic and tragic episodes of the canal's history and of the world's history. It was a consequence and a reflection of the war and the conflict that plagued the Middle East and that affected the world. It was also a challenge and a test for the people and the ships that were trapped in the canal and for the world that relied on it. It was also an opportunity and a catalyst for the peace and the cooperation that emerged in the region and that benefited the world. It was also a lesson and a reminder of the importance and the value of the canal and of the need and the responsibility to protect and to preserve it. This was the story of the stuck ships, how the Suez Canal was blocked for 8 years.